Alright, well, we're just going to pick up where we last left off. After suffering a defeat, the party still has a few problems that they're left with, the main being what to do with the metallic relic that they've found. Speaking with local leadership, they have a need to send a message to Hossburg for aid, at the same time suggest that there may be someone there to help them uncover the secrets of the orb. The group takes on the task to request the aid from Lord Hellman in Hossburg, enlisting the aid of a few fishermen to take them up the river in an effort to stay off the road, hopefully to beat the Conclave to Hossburg if they happen to be going that way. After a few days of travel on the river, the heroes dock in Hossburg. They start by splitting up, driving an aid-air, heading to the municipal to make a formal request for aid to Berkton, while Rose, Peridot, and Gil begin casing the town, trying to find someone that can identify the orb that they have. At the Leaping Dwarf, a local brothel, Gil meets a dapper half-orc named Georgie, to whom he makes an open request if he knew someone that could tell them more about an ancient metallic orb. Georgie takes a liking to Gil and says he'll see if he can find someone. Hopping to the others in the municipal, the duo make it to Lord Hellman's office as a large bearded man was leaving. A quick exchange in the hall reveals the bearded gentleman to be named Aram. Driving an aide to discuss with Lord Hellman the happenings in Berkton and actions of the Conclave, Lord Hellman agrees to send military aid to Berkton. Lord Hellman, for political reasons, says he can't declare the Conclave enemies yet, but will make his guards aware of them. With their official duties complete, they leave Lord Hellman to his duties. After their meeting, they stop in Lord Aram's office. They mention an urgent matter that he may be able to help them with, and Aram agrees to help, but has prior engagements until 2 days from now, and they break terms to meet for lunch in 2 days' time. The next day, the party gets their hands dirty trying to learn about some local factions, the competing merchant guilds, and even shedding some light on the local thieves guild known as the Lamplighters. After being approached by one of the guilds, the Long Irons, they actually hire Perry to gather dirt for this merchant guild and figure out what the goings-on are of another merchant guild known as the Hossburg Mercantile Union. And the party devises a scheme to figure all this information out by going into the HMU, the Hossburg Mercantile Union, and posing as if they're trying to get hired. They find out all kinds of information about them, and perhaps if people are interested more in how my guilds work and the motivations of everything, we could do a separate video. But for right now, it's not terribly important to the main plot. So after they finish the investigation with the HMU, they run into some of the Long Irons on the street, claiming that they have business with Gil. After a heated discussion, Gil diffuses the situation by agreeing to go with them, leaving the rest of the party. Rose happens to split away at that last moment and begins skulking, following the men and Gil through the streets. These men take Gil out of town to a overrun inn, well, not overrun, but really more of a ramshackle inn on the outskirts of town known as the Windfall Inn. There, a group of thugs questions Gil, asking them to give him the item. Gil, a bit dense to all this, doesn't really understand what they want until they finally, in frustration, come out and say what they need. In their frustration of not getting what they need from Gil, a fight breaks out. Rose leaps into action to help Gil, and both of them take out the attackers together. As they finish off the last of them, a cloaked figure rushes in, placing a gauntleted hand on Gil's head with a magical flourish added to it. He grabs on, and being that close to Gil, Gil can see a red lizard-like scaly appearance of a face underneath the hood. The cloaked figure then turns away, saying that I have what I need, which prompts all the rest of the bar to stand up and begin moving towards the party. Rose and Gil decide that this is too much of a fight for them, so Gil muscles through the crowd while Rose slips out, and they make it out into the streets, running away as fast as they can. They make it back to the center of town and duck into the loggerhead, where they meet up with the rest of the party. Gil and Rose recount their tale, telling them what happens, and the party is now very worried about their safety in this new city. So they opt to, after casing and talking to some people, opt to stay in the inn, as it seems like the safest place for them, that maybe roaming the streets might be a little dangerous for them. They meet a few people throughout the evening that they're staying there and in the night, getting information about not only Hossburg itself, but neighboring cities, and even some information about bordering countries, as they just talk to basically patrons in the pub. The next day comes. Through some conversation with the militia the night before, they decide that they're going to go file a report, which isn't too far from the inn, recounting Gil's tale, but specifically leaving out any mention of the orb and whatnot. After that, they come back and make their preparations for their meeting with Orym. The meeting with Orym goes well. He magically inspects the device, warning of its power and all the abjuration wards placed on it, that he can't personally figure out what it is, but he has a colleague that he worked with in the College of Kaymor, not terribly far from here, about a month's travel, of a wizard named Umbrax. He's more inclined to the esoteric and might be able to help them with that. The party tells Orym of the circumstances they're in, and Orym warns that traveling to Kaymor right now might leave them extremely vulnerable, being on the road or river for a month or so. If these factions that are trying to either attack the group or get to the orb are larger than just in Hossburg, then being out in the wilderness might be deadly for them. He offers them a job with the city if they will, or rather not really a job as much as a temporary duty of investigating the recent crime spike in Hossburg, and the reasoning is Orym doesn't believe that this is a coincidence, that all of this is happening at the same time. It seems too easy to lay it on coincidence, and that these people are very capable of figuring out what's going on if they were able to get the device itself and bring it here. The party now is debating on whether or not they're going to go to Kaymor to figure out this, risking travel, or if they're going to stay in Hossburg and figure out more. Additionally, there are some aspects of the different guilds that they believe some are getting a unfair deal. There's multiple layers of gray going on, so the party is a bit torn on where to go from here. So what do you think? Is there anything that you want to know more about? I'm really just focused on, in this, telling the main storyline. I often have it where there's many factions and groups that are not necessarily engaged directly with what's going on in the story, but it does make at least how I feel, it makes the setting feel a lot more rich, that not everybody you talk to is involved in the main storyline, and it also pulls attention away from the main storyline, which some would consider bad practice, but for me, that makes it makes its own tension, because there is a stress that comes from, you want to help as many people as possible, but the timeline of events moving makes that a dangerous prospect. So it's a moral quandary. If a character is somebody who feels that they can do right all the time and they are heroic, they may have to decide what's more important and weigh their options. But let me know. This is a pretty quick one, but I'm having a lot of fun telling you guys what's going on. We are actually caught up to the last session, and it looks like for the time being, for the foreseeable future, that this party is actually going to move to a weekly basis. So this might be one of the more common updates that you get from me. Obviously, West Marches will probably stay the top one, because I play so often. But this campaign is about to be my most played campaign. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.